Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney Cruz, and I am so excited that you are joining me today and looking at my poster of teacher preparation and self-determination skills for young children with disabilities. So I wanted to take a moment and just introduce myself and give you a little bit of background. Currently, I am an instructor at Youngstown State University. I have been there for about 4 years and teach in the Early Childhood Intervention Specialist program, along with the special education program for the graduate level students. I also am a 4th-year doctoral student at Kent State University. I will be taking my comprehensive exam here this fall and beginning to prepare for my dissertation study, hopefully in the spring. Prior to coming to higher education, I was an early childhood teacher for students with disabilities. The school served just the population of students with learning disabilities from several school areas in our area. And I had grades 1 through 3 for 10 years. So the wonderful thing about being with the same students for a longer period of time is really to understand them on a deeper level and to really grow along with the students and their families. So I have fond memories of being in that classroom, and I really feel like I'm coming full circle now as I'm studying self-determination skills. In that classroom, I realized that there was this need to train these young children in the areas of decision-making and problem solving and even self-advocacy. I really felt that at that time, my students needed to have a voice in their education. I did not have any formal training in self-determination skills. My background was early childhood education, even though I was teaching within a special education classroom at the time. I do know and have known for my whole entire teaching career that every human being deserves the right to make decisions for themselves and their future. And so that really is the drive for this literature review that I've done, and which is going to serve into my dissertation study. So right at the top, you see teacher preparation equals cultivation. And I really truly believe that there is this process in cultivating the education of our teachers. And that begins at the college level. So though we are training in-service teachers, I believe if we kind of back that up and really start at the pre-service level, that we may see more prepared teachers in the field. Another part of the rationale is just knowing that, especially for young children, that we kind of underestimate their ability to understand and the competency to make such personal decisions when it comes to their own learning and giving them choices and a voice in that. And so we see there's an opportunity in the early childhood classroom to grow as a self-determined learner. However, even research will back that up, that unfortunately we are not seeing that within the early childhood classroom, those particular opportunities to grow. Teacher candidates are primarily focusing on self-determination for secondary learners. And so because of transition skills and when we're teaching them about the IEP and the transitional goals that children need to have, even moving from middle school to high school or high school into employment. That is a definite focus. However, we're not seeing it so much in the early childhood preparation of teachers. And then, of course, I would be remiss to not speak about the increase of inclusive classrooms that we are seeing come up in the United States. And then also our universities are responding to that, which is wonderful, by creating these dual majors. And one of those would be the general education and special education. So we're seeing a lot of that intervention specialist, that dual major. So I had 2 purposes in this literature review, and the first one was really to identify methods and models used in pre-service preparation to teach pre-service teachers about self-determination skills, and then to identify and analyze the outcomes and impacts of those methods and models on pre-service teacher preparation. So self-determination, the important thing to know here is that those who are actually found to be self-determined understand their strengths and challenges and have a belief in their own capability to attain their goals and demonstrate a control over their own life and consequently become a successful adult. And we hear a lot with self-determined individuals, we hear that causal agent. So someone who really does have a say and can make decisions about their own life. And there are 9 skills that are associated with self-determination, and those are listed here in red. Not all of those are a focus at the early childhood level. So we see a lot of goal setting and attainment in the literature, and we see a lot of decision making and problem solving, as well as self-regulation. However, we see a lack in the literature of self-advocacy. Self-awareness is talked about at a very minimal capacity, and same as self-efficacy. So I will go ahead and just briefly talk about the method, but of course, you all understand what a literature review looks like. And so I've listed those inclusion areas of criteria. And when I was first doing this literature review, I was really struggling to find articles that were specific to teacher preparation. And it was so limited that I did widen the scope to include in-service teacher training and self-determination as well. And then I didn't include articles that were on transition services. So kind of back to the beginning when we're talking about young children ages 3 to 13. So preferably before the start of high school or any transitional period. That was my focus. So some of the interventions and strategies that I found within the literature. The first one is the Early Childhood Foundations model for self-determination. This was really geared toward preschoolers. And what was really important and impactful in my study of this model was the connection between the inclusive classroom and the home. And so that really talked about the collaboration between the two. The next one is the self-determination learning model of instruction. And this one really is talking about goal setting. And so kind of taking you through a training of understanding how to work with children and how to teach them and for them to learn how to set a goal, assess themselves, and then reevaluate if needed. And this is a great setup for the IEP. And so when we're looking to have children involved in their IEP goals and making those goals as they are, later in their age group, and probably more towards, we see it more towards like the middle school, high school years, as they're making those goals for what they want to do for employment or what they want to do after school. We really can drive this home, this goal setting and attainment. And so what I really was struck by with this model is just thinking about how it's used with in-service teachers. And now I want to kind of continue my research and seeing, is this used with pre-service teachers? And can we include this in the curriculum and instruction with them to give them opportunities to work with students, maybe young children in a one-on-one situation very early on in their teacher preparation program, so that they can kind of see maybe throughout a semester. And so that's something I want to look at later. The other strategies were case studies, role playing, and coaching was one that was mentioned also, especially in regard to self-determination learning model of instruction. So with in-service teachers kind of coaching them through that. And so that was really piqued my interest as well, because I'm very interested in coaching when it comes to pre-service teacher preparation. And then finally, direct work with children. Most of the literature that I found was geared toward in-service teachers having this direct work with children. And so some positive impacts on pre-service teachers when they are trained in this is that there's an increased awareness of a child's need to develop that particular skill of self-determination. So finally having that awareness that says there is a lack of maybe self-advocacy, that they don't know how to stand up for themselves in a conversation, or to maybe solve a problem or to make a decision about something. They, of course, with training, will have a knowledge of available strategies. So when they are studying case studies and role playing, and they've been taught about the self-determination learning model of instruction. And so if they know there are strategies out there and interventions that they can use, certainly that can translate into them using it within the classroom. Competency of increased competency to provide instruction and support of these skills with children, and then an increased confidence, a self-confidence to teach self-determination. And so I've kind of made this chart below because I felt that if we're going to look at teacher preparation, then also we need to look at the outcomes for young children from the literature as well. So if they have if young children with disabilities have a trained teacher, in the green are things that we're going to see within those students. So that means an increased independence, a more I can approach, increased voice and choice in their classroom, preparedness for those transition years. So instead of waiting to begin those self-determination skills, if we're starting those earlier, man, they've really had they've had years ahead of time to really work on some of those skills before they get to age 14. And then an increased quality of life. So just kind of like that end result that really that's what we want at any age, is to have that purpose and fulfillment. And so in the red, obviously in the table, is what would happen without trained teacher support in self-determination. So in conclusion, research conducted on this topic is underdeveloped in the area of pre-service teacher preparation. So we see a lot with the in-service teacher, with in-service teachers, but we're not seeing so much so many studies being done on pre-service teacher preparation. And then also there's lots of literature on children with disabilities at the secondary level, but there is still minimal research with self-determination in the classroom at a younger age. And universities would need to analyze their programs for SD pedagogical instruction and practices in order to better equip their teacher candidates to teach SD. Once highly competent pre-service teachers start working in the field, then we can actually see this across the spectrum of diversity, but we're going to see teachers who are competent and who are helping to produce self-determined people even at a younger age. And this not only is going to impact something that's happening in the classroom, but going full circle, it's going to impact their families and it's going to impact our communities as well. So my future research, I just am looking now at investigating teacher candidates' personal skill set, so their own personal skill set and self-determination, and how that might impact their ability to teach self-determination. So for example, if we have a teacher candidate who perhaps struggles to make their own goals and attain those goals, or struggles with self-advocacy. So isn't one of our teacher candidates that's speaking up in class when they're struggling, or needs further help and doesn't ask. If that is where they are functioning, how are they going to train up younger children to do those things if they're not doing it themselves? So I'm curious as to the correlation between those two. And then I'd like to identify areas in teacher prep programs that can serve as the training grounds for self-determination, and then find ways to provide concrete experiences in teaching SD to young children through coaching. I appreciate you staying and listening to my presentation. I look forward to any questions that you may have. At the bottom, you can find my contact information and my personal website, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.